We want to thank you all very much for being here. My name is Ann Wright. I'm a 29-year U.S. Army veteran and retired as a colonel. Also was a U.S. diplomat and resigned in opposition to the war in Iraq. We are here today to talk about a very, very serious and important issue that the U.S. military faces, and that is sexual assault on military members, women and men both. And what we feel is a failure of military leadership to take care of its own people. We will be talking about a specific incidents concerning Suzanne Swift. She has been sexually assaulted in Iraq. She returned to the United States and was in the same unit as the perpetrators of those assaults. She then went AWOL for 6 months and then was picked up by the U.S. military and is detained now at Fort Lewis. We will be having with us today women veterans who are going to talk about the whole issue of sexual assault. We have 2 board members of Veterans for Peace, a national veterans organization, who will be speaking to you in terms of their long service in the military. We have a woman who was sexually assaulted herself. And then we have the mother of Suzanne Swift. So it's a very important meeting that we have today, and we appreciate the press being here. I'd like to ask one of our national vice presidents of the Veterans for Peace, Sharon Kufelt, to be our first speaker.
Thank you. In 1969, I enlisted in the Air Force during the Vietnam War. I was 21 years old at the time. I'd put myself through 2 years of college, and I was raised to believe in the responsibilities of citizenship. And also that everyone should give some service for the good of all. A family friend, a retired lieutenant colonel, explained how the military, the Air Force specifically, could be a wonderful career. And I looked forward to it. The Air Force would pay me to finish my college education, my tuition, and I could go to OCS and serve as an officer for the remainder of my career. I was told that I could choose what that career would be. There were openings coming up for new jobs for women, and actually I got one of those. I was one of the first women trained in computers in the Air Force. Since I hadn't had much luck in finding equality for women in the workplace, I was excited about the possibility of equality for serving my country. After I went in, I found much that I enjoyed. The teamwork, some of the people I served with. I was one of the first women, as I said, training computers. I was proud of wearing the uniform. I was stationed at Headquarters Pacific Air Forces at Hickam Air Force Base in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. What a choice place. I loved my work. What I was not expecting was the misogyny. What I was not expecting was the curfew when the men I served with were free. When I questioned this practice, I was told that this was for our own protection. Protecting us from what on a restricted military base, I asked. Because it was during war, you had to show ID to get on base. Protected from the men. Just like in town, there were places and times where it wasn't safe to be out and about. The incidents of rape and sexual assault are at least 2 to 3 times higher in the military than anywhere in any civilian population. And likely this is a very conservative number. The military sexual trauma I received was relatively minor compared to many. It was an escalation of the attempted rape by my boss back in civilian life. It happened on the beach on a base when I was out walking past sunset. I shouldn't have been there, was what I was told, and to shut up. Let me make myself clear. Women enter the military to be of service to our country. We come in because we respect the ideals, the Constitution, and we care a great deal. No one tells us to serve. We volunteer. We come forward. It's unconscionable that this behavior towards women is fostered by the very training that we all receive in the military. It only takes a few hours of listening to the language of the DIs and the words that they say and the cadences they're called. Separating one for their humanity is necessary to train people to kill, they say. Separating one and dehumanizing others is necessary, they say. If you're fighting for good reason, I don't think so. But in any case, military training definitely dehumanizes at least half the population right off the bat. Over the years, as I've spoken to dozens of women who have served in the military at various times from World War II forward, I've heard so many horrific stories. Really, really bad stories. It's time once again to bring military sexual trauma to the forefront of our communications. It's time to speak out and clean up this mess. Few people actually realize how systematic it is, how systemic it is. It happens to both men and women. It's not about sex, we all know that. It's about power. It's about power over. It's about dominion. It's about the abuse of power. I call on the military to punish perpetrators, and I applaud the courage of women like Suzanne Swift for stepping forward. She's a survivor of military sexual trauma. She is standing up and saying, no, no more. I'm speaking out. I call on the military to give her the justice she deserves. She deserves an honorable discharge, and she deserves full treatment for any of her medical needs. And I call on the VA because that's probably where she will get her treatment when she leaves the military. I call on them for full PTSD care for women. The military must right this injustice now. Release her. Allow her to heal. Thank you.